Welcome to Spoiler Talk,
where we talk spoilers.
I'm your host Kieran,
And I'm Jax.
and this week we spoil The Mandalorian, Season 2, Episode 5, Chapter 13, The Jedi. Jax, what did you think of The Jedi?
Alright, so this is an episode that I feel like everyone watching The Mandalorian has been kind of hotly anticipating. If we knew because of casting things, Ahsoka Tano was rocking up. People might not have known, like my brother had no idea until we were telling him last week. In episode 3, he says the words Ahsoka Tano. So this week, we finally got the Clone Wars animated character in live action. So it's kind of like a crazy, huge, big episode. And the main thing I did not expect was to start. Like, we've got a castle, and they're ringing the bell, and I'm like, this is Game of Thrones shit up in here. Mando's gonna oh my god, it's her! And she's like, doing the things. And it's like an assassin hiding in this mist and the fog, and the lightsabers, dual white lightsabers, going crazy, like, just from the get-go. I was like, I honestly don't think I expected to see lightsabers in action till Moff Gideon and her were facing off. And I didn't think that would happen till next episode. Like, I was completely blindsided by this absolutely incredible start. And then something happened, and I was like, oh fuck, I have a huge issue with this. So Ahsoka, dual lightsabers, and so for everyone, I mean, we know this, but for context for everyone, we're the biggest Star Wars fans, as who isn't? But I fucking love the Clone Wars. I like bits of Rebels. I love Ahsoka. You're generally not a biggest fan, haven't seen a lot of it, seen little tidbits, so that's just where we're both coming from. I've been really nervous to see Ahsoka. And in the last week, I've watched like everything she's been in, getting real hyped for her, getting real excited to see her. But yeah, this episode, we actually see her live action. And it's like, I have one big issue. The casting of Rosario Dawson, she's terrible. You suck. I'm embarrassed for you. I'm embarrassed for everyone and part of it, because as soon as she started acting, like, she's doing all the lightsaber stuff, hiding, doing all the things, and then it pans up, she's got the lightsabers, and you see her face. And it looks like she's in pain. Like, they forgot to actually test what she'd look like with the makeup on and the costume involved, because I have never seen such a wooden, flat, uncharismatic, unemotional, humanless performance.
Well,
for
Jax,
something that's...
what I think you're missing is that she's playing Ahsoka Tano.
Oh, you got me good! You got me good! And I fucking disagree, because Ahsoka Tano is charismatic, fun, mostly fun, but like, she has so much emotion, there's so much character. Even just her voice, there's a vibrance and an emotion and just a bow bow bow.
Oh, you
and
mean
this
like
is
a childlike energy that's been beaten down by years of, the Empire taking over the galaxy, to the point where someone who said they're no longer a Jedi is now probably the most Jedi of the Jedi.
Oh, actually, so speaking of that, let's switch right over to my second issue. Ahsoka Tano was actually alive at this point in the Star Wars universe, because she's a Clone Wars character, and then Clone Wars got cancelled. Even though she was already, like, in Clone Wars, she gets expelled. Then it gets cancelled. Perfect for the apprentice of Darth Vader. Then they're like, oh, I guess we'll bring her back in Rebels. Then she fights Darth Vader, and it's like, oh, it's good. Oh no, she gets time traveled out of that spot, thrown back in, and then what does she do up until this point? Bloody nothing, mate.
What do you mean? She's doing exactly what you wanted her to do in the last episode.
No,
you said you wanted her to be looking for Ezra and Thrawn and all this shit, and that gave you exactly what you wanted, and you're a bloody Star Wars fan, you know that?
As soon as they actually did it, I suddenly realized my biggest issue with Ahsoka Tano being in this series. Ahsoka Tano is Darth Vader's apprentice. We have Darth Vader's apprentice, who then is there for Order 66, and then in Rebels finds out that Darth Vader is Anakin. Everything we know about Ahsoka's character, every single moment, means, and we know from her character, she would then hunt down and stop Anakin. Can you imagine a movie? I was thinking called like The Fallen Apprentice, or like just Vader, or anything. Come up with a great name. And it's a cat and mouse movie. You have Darth Vader in his costume, live action, just after 3, in between 3 and 4. Well, just put it anywhere, it doesn't matter. And he's hunting down the last of the Jedi, and Ahsoka is trying to hunt down him. And then we get an actual final conclusion with the apprentice and the master.
Oh, yeah. Let's...
So my issue essentially is that there's not a confrontation with them and there's not a giant sword fight. Like at the end of this episode, there's a sword fight. But imagine if that fight was with her and Darth Vader. So all of this thing, I just feel like I just see her and go, what were you doing between 4, 5, and 6? You were looking for the blue guy? For Thorn? The most unimpressive villain you've ever done in Star Wars? And Dave Filoni ended his arc in Rebels, and he's like, actually, you know what? I'm going to end his arc in this. Or a spin-off thing with Ahsoka, or what. But it's just like, I just suddenly, as it happened, I suddenly was like, what has she been doing? This whole time.
What do you mean? I disagree so much.
Really?
I'm sitting here listening to you just bottling up more and more and more thoughts, and I'm not going to be able to get them all out if I don't interject.
No, go then.
So I, for one, thought that her performance was, at the beginning, I agree, I was skeptical because she does such engaging, acrobatic, gymnastic performance, and I'm
all
really
the fighting and stuff.
I'm buying all the combat. I'm buying the movement.
Spectacular.
I really like it all. Even my partner Jessica, who I consistently bring up in this podcast for the normie frame of reference to Star Wars, immediately was like, "Oh my God, she's scary." She was like, "Is this the Jedi you've been talking about?" And I'm like, "This is her." And I didn't realize we would be getting into it this quick.
Yeah.
Which is a really big surprising part for me. And I think when she cuts through everyone, emerges from the fog, and then finally she's gotten to the person she needs to get the information that she's after, which just relax, first of all, because we don't know what the course of events are that has led her to this spot. I think intentionally so, because they haven't quite fleshed it all out yet. So I'm cool with the vagaries. I'm cool with, like, Bo-Katan knew she was headed at this spot around this point in time, so she sends the Mandalorian there. And they've obviously been...
They're texting each other, because this is a very
They've
recent
been in contact
thing.
enough to the point where they're trying to find these people. It's been a little bit of time. It's been 10 years since the events that we saw her in last, roughly.
Yeah, I think 15 or so, but yeah, it doesn't
But from
doesn't
what
matter.
you said, they shot into the unknown regions of the galaxy. So 10 years to me, there's like an area of the galaxy which is like well charted and they know. And then once you're outside of that, you're in chaos, man. We don't know where you are. That's Exegol and all these crazy places. So they're out there. They've been wheel spinning. We don't know what's going on. But what I got from her energy in that first performance, after it was all said and done, I'm kind of, because in the moment I was skeptical, but now retrospectively, after seeing the whole episode and what they did with her character, my reading is this: if she's too angry, she just comes across as a Sith. And if she's too Jedi-like, she's just a straight Jedi, and she's not either of those things. So I think the fierceness of her combat, coupled with the indifference to, I'm just here to get the information.
She just forgot to act. That's what you get.
I disagree because she acts later on, and I think she does a great job with the important parts with little Grogu. Little baby Grogu. How do you feel about Grogu?
Yeah, so I bought that, and it cost me $50, and I'm going to light it on fire and burn it.
Why? Why do you hate everything? What happened to you this week?
Grogu is just such
Grogu,
I don't care. I just think, as soon as I heard that, I'm like, I just think that once you name him, I'm like, I don't like the name. I don't like the name. It's like a Grogu, baby. It's like immediately.
It's Yoda. It's Yaddle. It's Grogu. It fits. It's as good a name as you can come up with for a character that was named immediately by the fans before anyone could.
I'm always calling him Baby Yoda. I'm always calling him
the,
Baby Yoda, so it doesn't matter to me.
Even them trying to call it the child this whole time hasn't sunk in. It's been Baby Yoda from the start, Baby Yoda to the end, and everyone will immediately assume that. But now in the canon, there's a name because this is a 50-year-old being with many connections, and I like
he was
how
there chilling with Yoda and Obi-Wan at the Coruscant.
Which of course he would be if he's 50
I really
years
like
old.
that. I really like that. I also like that it's like he somehow survived Order 66. Anakin was like cutting through all the children, and he's like looking at that baby like, I'm coming for you, Baby Yoda. He somehow got away. So I really like all that. It's just, yeah, I don't know, man. I loved, like, I thought the episode was really great. I really enjoyed it. There was so much stuff where I was like, wow, this is awesome. But I was just like, it didn't do the thing that I needed it to do, which was make me go, this is why it's going to be here. Because for me, it's like, what was she doing? Why didn't she try and stop Darth Vader? Oh, she acted like a Jedi and hid for 15 years. Like Yoda does, like Obi-Wan does, like Luke does.
Yes.
She hid away somewhere, not avoiding the conflict with Darth Vader, because she can barely take out this random
She
villain.
went and faced him and then got sucked into a portal and
then
now
got
has
spat out exactly at the same point.
Yeah,
At
and
the
now-
same point then.
and
So
now-
she's still there with Darth Vader at that same temple crumbling. She walks away.
but you don't know what happened, so stop being angry about not knowing. Because they didn't give us the information. That doesn't mean that there isn't a good explanation for it. And that's kind of half of Star Wars, is that
I just don't see that having
you're
a good
jumping into the
explanation.
middle. They didn't have one before. They didn't have a reason why Ahsoka didn't rock up until Rebels, but you were cool with that.
I just suddenly realized I would much prefer just not have her in the show, not include her, do a movie set 10 years earlier where she's with Darth Vader. And that's just what I suddenly had that realization. Seeing her do the lightsabers, do all the things, I was like, this is great. And she's having a fucking Kill Bill standoff with the lady with the Beskar spear. That's fantastic, Beskar spear. But it's like, that
Also-
scene, I was just like, how much better would this be? Just, if I gave a shit. Who cares about this random villain she can barely beat? She loses a lightsaber to her? It's like, oh my God.
Yeah, of course she would. She's not anything.
Yeah,
Jedi,
she's clearly
so-
not very good.
Yeah.
Which is obviously why she didn't want to fight Fate.
I disagree. I think she's the problem we had with another episode. She's the mini boss that you need in the episode so that there's actually some tension. She knocks
Sure,
a lightsaber out. We have the moment that we didn't get in episode 3 because there wasn't enough time. You need a little mini boss, and I think a little bit of struggle and then overcome it. And it's like, when she's like, where's your master? I'm like, oh, is this chick a Jedi? She's got a Beskar. Also, you told me Beskar lightsaber wouldn't block it. And immediately when I saw it, I'm like, damn you, Jax. I knew.
No. So I actually thought that Beskar, like just in my brain, I remember thinking that Beskar was like at a certain point, and that we would actually have a moment where the Darksaber. I mean, obviously we got this one, but I thought originally we'd have a Darksaber, and he'd be like, block it, and then we'd be like, cut off an arm, or I thought that be a moment of like, oh. And so we'd get a level of Beskar stops a big gun, a big bazooka. It just stops all these things, but it won't stop that. But my favorite part of the episode where he's just like looking through the scopes and we've got those giant, big, weird things in the distance. I watched it with my brother and he literally, as we'd go on that thing, he's literally like, referencing to A New Hope getting interrupted that. And then literally he's like, oh God, Jedi! And he's like, when he does that thing and he's like blocking her and doing that fight, and she like flips and lights her cape on fire, and then she's like, does the thing on him, and then he does the thing, and she gets on the tree. That's the greatest. That's perfect. Honestly, I thought the first 20 minutes was perfect. It's stuff later where I just suddenly, we'll get all into it. But that bit where they're fighting, I got real big Avengers, Cap, Thor, and Iron Man when they first fight in the forest. And it's just kind of like, because it's so brief, but you go, fire, lightsaber, gun, and it just does all the things so quickly where you're like, oh, this is an amazing thing. So yeah, no, all that was great, but yeah, I don't know. So just generally speaking, you really liked Ahsoka in this epi, yeah?
Yeah, I thought at the beginning, yes, you could definitely read that performance as either them not wanting to overstate the aggression, because she's literally in a forest slaughtering people, and that does come across as, I think a fair criticism is that I'm worried in this opening scene, she's not giving a lot, but also what should she be giving here? If it's overly aggressive, if it's overly Jedi, she's not really fitting into the character. So it just seemed like they're playing it safe. But also, you've got acclaimed actor Michael Biehn in this episode, who is as flat as anything as well. So I'm going to point...
The cowboy guy? The cowboy guy?
I'm going to point the finger, all of this at Dave Filoni's directing, getting wooden performances, because he was educated by George Lucas after all. And he's great at a lightsaber action sequence and lots of cool fun stuff like that, and even that...
Smoke, lightsaber disappears, she disappears, lightsabers appear, she's there.
Might happen 3 too many times, though. So I think Dave Filoni kind of got caught in the thing, and it just kept happening, and it's like, I have to put every Ahsoka shot in, even though we've done it very many times. But it kind of fixed a couple of issues I had in Rise of Skywalker. One big problem in Rise of Skywalker is that the sound editing or sound mixing of the lightsabers, so it's the mix. It's not the editing, because the sound's there. The edit is actually putting the components together, and then the mix is how you blend them, yeah? So the mix has been fucked up in Rise of Skywalker, because all of the lightsabers in all of the sequences don't have the right hum or energy or weight, And I really felt the like base of the lightsaber in this episode, and the threat and the sharp ignition sound and all of these things that were really missing that JJ got right in Force Awakens. Like, I really feel the weight of the lightsabers in Force Awakens, and then Rise of Skywalker, it's like he's forgotten how to do it. And I get it's like they're more attuned, they've been trained up.
That's not it. He just
No, he says this.
Oh,
he says
really?
this in
Oh,
behind-the-scenes features. This is not relating to the mixing. This is relating to they're swinging him around more effectively. They're not as heavy. But you've missed now. You've de-emphasized the weight and the sound because you're trying to de-emphasize the fact that they're more attuned Jedi. I don't think that you need to do both those things together. I don't know whose decision it was, but someone made the wrong decision. Even to the point in the cave. The lightsaber's on. She's using it as a torch. Trying to find a big sandworm, and you can barely hear it. It's barely audible. Whereas if it's in a dark, quiet, cavernous space, you would, or in a dark, foggy forest, you know, you really hear it when it turns, and she has to keep turning it off because she's like, I've got a light stick in a dark forest. I can use this, turn it off. Use this, turn it off. And then she finally gets to the gate. She's like, just give me my fucking information. I want to go. That's kind of how I'm reading the performance now. And maybe it's wooden, maybe it's not. But it's Rosario Dawson. I know she can act. I know Michael Biehn can act. I know everyone can act. And they're not acting in this. And no one's really doing much. And it's like, there's some fun stuff here. And it's exciting, really exciting to see Jedi. And I think all the best stuff is just with her and Grogu. I think Baby Yoda. I think all of those scenes really work, and her re-explanation of the Force and the Jedi and all of these things is very, very just straight up, and there's no bullshit. There's none of that stuff I was worried about. It's like, here's the information, here's my decision making based on that information for exactly what my character would be at this point in time. Is like, so, I watched the kid go down the dark path. We don't want to do that with this one. He's better off with you right now. Take him here to this place. Maybe that'll point you in a different direction.
I thought that was my least favorite bit. Her justification for why she didn't want to train Baby Yoda was so she's just like
she's not a Jedi. She's
No, sure. But her justification is she's like, because I knew a person. She doesn't get into it at all. And we have to then go, well, it's Ahsoka, so she's talking about Darth Vader. And I know that. But this is the fucking Mandalorian. This should just be like, for the show itself, Bo-Katan rocked up, and all her things I felt like worked enough for just the show.
It's the same thing.
Exactly. I just feel like the way
tainted by expectation. And
oh no, because I've watched this 3 times, and the 3rd time I was like, you know, she's not as bad as I thought the first time. But generally, just that scene where she's like, oh, I knew a guy, and like he was pretty evil, and so we shouldn't do that. It just, to me, it was like, this is what's happened to her over so long. She's like this Baby Yoda. Grigorovich, or whatever the hell Grogu, or whatever. So I don't know, I prefer a name like Grovarovich, or Devon.
Honestly, I think you've just, one thing has tilted you, and now I'm negative on everything in the episode.
No,
so
like
I feel like you need some space from this before you can digest it, because...
Well, I always need space, because I'll watch something and then it'll just hit me. But it's like when it panned up and I saw her face, I was like, it's not working for me. Her costume looks like cheap cosplay. She looks like she's
wrong. You're so wrong.
But she just looks like
it
looks like she's
it looks
cramped
great.
down.
It looks so good.
I think half of it looks great.
No,
all action it looks good. But when she's just standing there, I'm like, nah.
It looks the best
that
it looks the best that Alien has ever looked in any live action Star Wars ever, and you couldn't be more wrong. I'm sorry. That's my opinion.
Nah, I found her so stilted and boring. I couldn't.
That's a different conversation. So
no, but that's what I felt like every time she did a thing. Like she did, like she's like Darth Vader had emotions of any sort, but she had emotions. And to not want to train Baby Yoda because he loves this dad, it's like, okay, I understand that, but it just felt like the way she did it felt so much like, I don't know, like it ended and she's like, I'm not going to train him, bye. Go do another fucking side mission and go to a temple, which is the most rebels thing you can ever do. Go to a temple and pray on a holocron. And I'm just like, this just... I don't know. I wanted her to be there for like 3 or 4 episodes. I don't now. I really don't. But I really wanted it to like sit there and wait with it, and not her be halfway be like, I'm sick of training Baby Yoda. We did a little gimmick. We've trained. Now help me do another side mission, because that's what we do. You meet a character that's fun and interesting, and then you do a side mission. And it just felt very like... I did love, though, when she walks into town and then she jumps up on the roof. And the way she dodges, the way... I don't know. Like, I really did like some stuff, but I think I don't know. I watched so much Ahsoka this week, and I think I just got into a mindset and a frame of what I wanted. And I think I changed my mind as soon as it was happening. Because I remember last week I was like, I want Sabine. I want her to be a daggy old mum now. I want them to tell me that Ezra is dead and gone. No more Jedi. But at the end, she's like, maybe there's another Jedi to come up in 3 episodes' time. And I was like, this just, I don't know. I feel like the Mandalorian feels like, I just feel like suddenly this season is like, he's just meeting, I don't know. Rebels suddenly went, season 2. Remember all these characters from Clone Wars? How good's Rebels now? I'm like, this is, and now Mandalorian is like, all these characters from Clone Wars and Rebels?
No, and Mandalorian is like taking all of the components of Star Wars that people
This was just a Clone Wars episode to me, man. That's like the biggest thing I got. Was like, this is as good as the good episodes of Clone Wars, you know? But it's live action, so it's so much better. Same as episode 3, when the Mandalorians land, they punch. It's so much better than in Clone Wars when they do the same thing, because it's live action. But I don't know. I guess
it's not the same as Clone Wars at all, in that these are very, very much structured narratives with focus, and characters have very clear intention and obstacle, and this is doing all the things that I require from a production at this level, and sometimes it's doing just shy of it, and I'm wanting more. And I'm consistently feeling that way, and I feel very much about Ahsoka like I did about Bo-Katan. To me, they're one and the same, because I'm detached from these characters. I don't give a fuck about any of them. I like that they've introduced these elements that people like from other properties, but that's really what I think you might be missing here, is that The Mandalorian is not just doing Clone Wars and Rebels. It's taking everything from every part of Star Wars and giving you a little bit of it. Yeah, no, and you know what? You want a lot from this character, and this is what I've been saying to you for week after week after fucking week, is that they're not going to give you all of it. They
can't give me any of it, though, because this episode is the first time that Ahsoka now... All I suddenly realized when I saw her is she now survived Darth Vader, which means the only thing I want from her is a resolution to her character. Dave Filoni just keeps botching her in everything. So I took on a lot of the things you said last week, or whenever we're talking a lot of Star Wars recently, and you were kind of more negative on Dave Filoni than I was. And I remember like, yeah, stupid cowboy hat,
I think I said like Joss Whedon with Buffy the Vampire Slayer out to the Avengers. Buffy is his film school, Avengers is him in the big league. And Dave Filoni, it's exactly the same thing. Clone Wars and Rebels are his film school. They are massively imperfect productions that I do not connect with, that I think are too flawed and too amateurish in components that matter to my sensibilities, that don't matter to everybody's. And I understand what people appreciate about it. And I also appreciate things about it that I think The Mandalorian isn't even doing. And I've said this in other episodes, but I think that it's still his film school, and it's working in an area of animation I do not connect with. All the sensibilities are off. I just don't like what they're going for. And then what they're going for here is cleaner, episodic, Western. It's like a 1960s serial that just leads into... We talked about Lost in Space on your other podcast, Two Brothers, One Pilot, and I talked about how every episode has a to be continued, and The Mandalorian feels so much like those words don't come up at the end, but they may as well, because that's how it feels. It's a 1960s serial.
This is actually probably the most closed off episode. Like often it's like the fish
surprisingly
goes, where is it? The frog lady's still there. There's little elements where like even that first episode, like that ended. Then he's like, I'm on the speeder still. I'm like, whoa, we're just right where we left off. The thing I was trying to say with Dave Filoni is, I just remember being like, I don't even... But then he did this, I don't know, watch this documentary thing, season 4, behind the scenes of Rebels. And he's doing this thing about talking about the Force and, you know, and he's just going into how he loves Obi-Wan's, like, sacrifice. And, you know, being a part of the Force, it's like, you know, he was like, the most influential thing to him was Luke Skywalker putting down his lightsaber and being like...
That's the Jedi way.
And he's like, that's the Jedi way. So Ezra does that. He self-sacrifices himself with Thrawn, takes them off with some space whales off. And as I heard him say this, and I actually had talked to you before I watched this, where I told you, I want to see Ezra, I want to see all these things. I changed my mind, because he summed it up, where that's Obi-Wan's exit. He sacrificed himself so the rest of the Rebels crew survives. You got all the other characters, I forgot all their names, who cares? And I just was suddenly like, and then no, you know what? I actually think I loved this episode until she was like, I just thought the way she talked about Vader, I'm like, I would have preferred this episode didn't have villain of the week with a spike thing. You could do that next episode, or have a bigger episode and have her talk to him, and then fucking give me a goddamn flashback where I see her and Darth Vader. We don't need to see Darth Vader yet, and that's not. She's his apprentice. Like, I just don't want her to be like. It reminded me of
the show is called The Mandalorian.
Yeah,
it is always going to be about the Mandalorian, and occasionally a side character from another property will be a guest star. That is what the show has been, and that is what the show will always be. And you may one day get an Ezra, but he's going to be in it for 20 minutes and then leave. And then maybe come back for the season finale.
Do you find her arc being like, give me, where's your master? Where's Thrawn? Where's the blue guy? Where's the blue guy who's the most uncompelling and just completely wasted in Rebels? The final season of Rebels is easily the worst season. And they just botch him. He doesn't do anything. He's just...
This isn't for... So
like her saying Thrawn, I'm just suddenly
it's for the people who like the books. Exactly why they put him in Rebels. Because people like that character from the really good trilogy of novels that he was in.
Sure, but are we getting him in this show or another show?
Probably. They mentioned his name, so he's going to be in the show. Because they didn't get him right in Rebels, so they're going to try again with this property. Because it's a character that hasn't been mined properly.
They fucked it up in Rebels, so they're trying to fix it now. They fucked her up in Clone Wars, they fucked her up in Rebels, they fucked her up in Clone Wars again, and now they're bringing her back to try and fix her again. And I'm like, how many times can you reboot a character over 50 years where you just can't finish their arc?
It's not, but that...
Like, I would have preferred it to be Mace Windu with like a metal arm. Like, honestly, like if it's just going to be a Jedi and just be a little thing, like, oh, I'm saying Mace Windu, I probably don't want it to be him, but this is all great. This is all fun. She's doing great sword fighting stuff. At the end of it, it just felt like another one where I'm like, I don't know. This just, like, where are we going now? To a Jedi temple, and then she's like, maybe another Jedi will hear her. But there's not many of us left. I'm like, yeah, because you didn't help out in the rebellion. You just ran off chasing a blue guy who was no threat. When your master was ruling the galaxy with an iron fist of evilness, what were you doing, lady? What were you doing? I can't handle it. Or at least Obi-Wan has an excuse. And if you bring her into live action, maybe this is the only time I see her for the whole season. So for a whole year, you've got to give me something. What was she doing, mate?
Continue doing exactly what you wanted her to do.
No, I wanted...
Just because she didn't say what it was does not mean that you're not going to be happy with the answer when you inevitably get it in some other related thing.
It just means she didn't want to face him and acted like a coward with Darth Vader. She just ignored that and was like, I'll just focus on this really unimportant character from an animated series. Like, last week you're like, Ahsoka Tano is the most, because in season 7 there's like,
she's fan fiction.
For sure, no, she is. But like, there's a scene in the final season they redid after all this stuff, and Mace Windu was like, lines from Revenge of the Sith. And then she rocks up as he ends that scene. The scene cuts. She's like, I'm still here. And I remember you being like, she's such a peripheral TV show character. And I was like, I disagree. This episode, I was suddenly like, no. Now it's come on to me, seeing her in live action. She is just a TV show character, and ironically played by someone who was also in Marvel as the through line of all their TV shows that were just completely disregarded by the movies, which makes me just feel like, I don't know, how can I invest? How can I care when it's just this Dave Filoni fan fiction nonsense? And she's acting with like a man with a helmet, a tin helmet, and a puppet.
I'm going to go, we're going to stop recording, and I'm going to go put a fucking episode of the Clone Wars on with her in it that I watched, and you're going to watch her first line in that episode, and you're going to be like, you know what, Rosario Dawson didn't do such a bad job. Your expectations are just way out of whack for one property over another property, and I think it's because you love what they've done in The Mandalorian so much. And your expectations have grown.
It should be. So honestly,
I don't think it should be better.
35 minutes
I think it's pretty good. I think it explained all the information it should be explaining. And I think if you have an overwhelming, if you have this idea in your head of what should be happening, then you're just perpetually going to be disappointed by the show, because this show is trying to be The Mandalorian. And it will involve peripheral characters of properties that did not have their fates divvied out. Anyone who didn't die in another property, and some of the people who did die, will come back. Yeah. Eventually. We watched Boba Fett die. He's back. We watched...
I don't believe that we'll get anything from Boba Fett. They're just, I now don't feel like I'm going to get, I'm like, was she just in this?
What did they do in season 1?
Of what?
The Mandalorian.
They put his feet
The show we're watching,
they put his
about.
feet in a shot. And that was terrible.
No. What did they do in almost every episode of The
I thought we were talking
Mandalorian
about Boba Fett.
season
What do you
1?
mean?
They introduced a small character that then came back at the end of the season. What are they doing in season 2 of The Mandalorian? They're introducing a character in each episode that most of which they're going to bring back in the season finale. What do you think they're going to do in season 3 of The Mandalorian? They're going to introduce us to a variety of new characters, some old, some new concepts, some riffs on old aliens, some things that we know and love from Empire Strikes Back, remixed in a new variant way.
Yeah, I don't know.
Some things from Rebels, some things from Clone Wars. The point is, not too much of anything, but a bit of everything sprinkled over a season that culminates in a big bang and hopefully some form of catharsis that you haven't got yet, that you will get when Bo-Katan, Ahsoka Tano, Moff Gideon, and Boba Fett are standing in a room together. You're going to retract everything that you've said because you're going to say it was all worth it. And we got all of these characters to a convergence point, which is where we were inevitably heading. And I honestly disagree with you about the Ahsoka stuff at the end. I think her character was perfectly informed by the history that we know of her, by where she is at this point in time.
Coward. Jedi. Classic Jedi. Hide like a coward.
She's not hiding like a coward. She's actively pursuing her enemies.
Because someone else killed Darth Vader.
Not
someone
a
else
Jedi.
stopped Darth Vader for her.
I feel like I'm just getting too sidetracked. I honestly did not want this episode to go this way at all. I feel like we've talked about everything but the episode.
What do you mean? We're talking about the episode.
We haven't really talked about the episode at all. We've talked about all this other stuff.
Okay.
And we have barely talked about...
What about Mando? What does he do in this epi? Fucking nothing. What does Baby Yoda do?
He literally fulfills the goal that is central to the show in this episode.
They meet a Jedi, and the Jedi's like, actually,
I'm not a Jedi.
Do another thing. Yeah, but to me, it's just like, go find another thing. And she's like, maybe another Jedi will pop up. It's like, cool.
She was part of an institution of wizards that have power over an energy force that we can't understand. She watched this institution burn to the ground and be destroyed from within. She then says that I'm not one of these people in this institution. I'm not a Jedi. I don't want to be a part of it. Then all of the Jedi are destroyed and wiped out, and there's none of them left except for 2 that are in hiding as far as we know. So now, by circumstance, the girl who said she didn't want to be a Jedi, just by her training and the state of the universe, is the most Jedi that there is. But she still doesn't want to be one, and she doesn't follow their creed or their ethic, and now comes across, much later in her life, a Force-sensitive individual, and is given the opportunity to now, as one of the last surviving remnants of an order that she watched fail and die and burn, and said herself that she didn't want to be a part of, have someone offer her an incredibly powerful, Force-sensitive being to go and train. Of course she's going to say no. Of course she's going to look at the institution that she left and say, I'm not going to indoctrinate another generation into this ideology of manipulating power that can literally destroy half of the universe, that can uproot everything, uproot our government and tear it all down. And I think that they articulated that point so well in this episode through so little. And I think that's one of the things, I think maybe now, looking back on the Bo-Katan stuff in that episode, I was kind of harsh on it and you were up on it. And now I think I was wrong. I think the succinctness, the sharpness, the just cutting through and just being like, I'm part of a thing you know, but I'm here for the Mandalorian. And my character is informed by all these other things, but I'm a part of the Mandalorian. And I'm pushing this story forward now. And I think that I was worried about her character being too Luke, or too Obi-Wan, or too whatever. And you know what? She's not either. She doesn't outright reject. She's open-minded. She listens. She interacts. She gauges the situation. And then she makes a judgment call, which is exactly what she did in that episode with the Mandalorians. The episode that I thought had some promise but wasn't all there. I watched her look at the situation, look at the facts objectively, and then walk away from the situation going, this is the decision I'm going to make. And that was the thing I liked about that episode the most. And that's exactly what she did here. She explained her reasoning. She did it so that everyone who knows what happened and who knows her character, the richness of that history, follows immediately what she's talking about.
Yeah.
And my girlfriend, who didn't make that connection, it's like, yeah, powerful can be evil. Cool.
Yeah.
Got it.
Okay, no, everything you said then, I wish I'd got that because she does all that and then goes, so take the little baby Yoda or Grogu, I don't care, Grigorovich, take him to a magic Jedi temple and see if he can find more Jedi.
And it's obviously that's alluding to Luke more than anything.
That is definitely alluding to Luke, which kind of frustrates me. I mean, I'd love to see Luke. That would be fantastic. But it just frustrates me that it's like, if she's the idea of like, the only time I met someone like him, it was the most powerful Jedi, Yoda. You know? And so she's like, maybe these creatures are just super powerful or whatever. Like, whatever she's reading from that. Don't you think then she'd be like, maybe it'd be better to let him, because I like the idea that he cut it off. And she says that at some point. That's probably my favorite bit in the video game as well. It's like the Jedi like cut off his sense of the Force so that he could hide. And so that he wasn't accidentally using it, he just cuts himself off so no one can find him. I'm just a dude now. And that's what Baby Yoda did as well. And I think that shouldn't she want that to happen again? Like, I just wish when I was looking at her acting, I wish I just got what I get when I look at the Tin Man's face and a fucking puppet. I just wish I got stuff where I'm like, not just being like, I'm projecting all of Ahsoka onto her because she looks like Ahsoka. But that's like, when I say bad cosplay, it's fine cosplay, but it just, to me, felt like cosplay where it's like when I love cosplay. It's like, see cosplay, and look, they're dressed up, I'm like, oh, they look like Ahsoka. But they're not Ahsoka. It's just someone being like, hey, I've got orange face. I don't know. I just don't think she brings it as an actress. I really think that's probably my biggest issue. And then, for the episode, amazing castle setup. I love the idea of this town, but then it's also like, it's very Star Warsy to have like, we're all like, it's like reminds me of the start of Pirates of the Caribbean 2 where they're all like torching things, but it just feels very like, bzz, save me. Bzz. I'm like, it's very PG. Yeah. That other cowboy was incredibly flat. The one bit I really did like where he's like, it sounds like she won. And he's kind of like, maybe we could be friends. And I'm like, that guy's going to pull a fucking gun. And Mando's just like, this guy's pulling a gun. And he gets him. I don't know. It's like that stuff with Mando where he just like nods at that farmer. Like the farmer comes out and he's like, oh, help. And they're just, I don't know, all that stuff. I just suddenly was like, you know what? Give Ahsoka her own show. Just do all that stuff. I really liking what Mando's doing. I actually love that Mando's now got a blade, so we won't have Jedi versus Moff Gideon, because Moff Gideon's not a Jedi. But I guess she can't fight just random people anyway, so she barely beat her. But now we get to have Mando, Beskar armor, Beskar weapon, fight a Darksaber, which it'll be able to deflect and stuff. It's also super unfair because he's going to go up against Moff Gideon. Moff Gideon will like, going to chop his head off and just be like, ding, ding, and be like, oh, well, that's not fair. You're immortal. You're impossible to kill now. And you fly.
Oberon got his spear back.
I didn't realize. Every episode when he talks, I just have this like thing in the back of my head and I'm like, it's so amazing that the guy who got famous for getting his head crushed because he wasn't wearing a helmet is now hiding behind a helmet every episode. Yeah, I don't know. I'm too, like, I watched it last night and I watched it again, watched it with my brother. Yeah, we talked for hours. He went home. I watched it again. Then I watched it on my break at work today. Do you know what it is, though, about the name? It doesn't matter what the name is. Honestly, I just think that, like, once it becomes, like, a kind of more baby name, I'm suddenly like, I want him to be called Grigorovich. That would be so good. Give him a full name. Call him Sam. But
have you read Crime and Punishment? Is that why you keep saying Grigorovich?
No. Last night, just me and Tim were like, Grogu. And I'm like, that sucks. He should be called Grigorovich. And then Tim's like, is that a character from Harry Potter? And I'm like, I don't know. It's just the name that came to me. So that's just... The point is, call him Sam, and then I'm like, oh, it's too human. Call him this, and I'm like, make it Sam or John. The point is, I think that I just loved the idea that this character appeared at the first episode, at the end of this first episode, and I remember being like, holy fuck, it's a baby Yoda. And then the whole of the internet is like, baby Yoda! And I'm like,
Well, that's
it's
why.
not even like half the internet was like, it's a Yoda baby. Everyone's just like, it's baby Yoda. It's just, it universally became this thing. And I think just suddenly like,
It is a Harry Potter character, Grigorovich.
nice. I think it's the Wand Breaker maybe? No, I don't know. I don't remember enough. Big books. But I don't know. I just think that just giving him a name. Like for instance, Mando is called Din Djarin. Fuck
Din.
that name, man. Oh, sorry.
Din.
Oh, sorry, yeah. Whatever I said.
Yeah.
Din Djarin.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like it's
Which is
just
a fantastic name.
It's a riff on Django.
Right, yeah,
But Star Warsified.
for sure. And it's a great name. But to me, it's just like, I like him being Mando. Because I like the idea that someone looks at him like, oh shit, it's a Mandalorian. Mando. So I guess that nicknaming, like Mando and the Baby Yoda, my brain, in the episode, when he calls him Grogu. Sorry, I've just, Grogu. He's like, Grogu. And the Baby Yoda's like, woo! And you're like, oh, he knows his name. And I don't know. I think I didn't like it first, but I kind of do understand the idea of like these two Force-sensitive people. So she can understand him. Even though part of me...
They're communicating in a way which isn't language because he can't speak, but through the Force.
And part of me really likes
Perfect.
that, but part of me finds it just a little bit frustrating. The way Doctor Who, the Doctor, I think it's Peter Capaldi, correct me if I'm wrong, but he can speak to babies. He's like, I speak baby. And I'm like, on a surface level, like in this, I like that. It's
That's
fun.
Matt Smith first.
Okay, sure. But then there's just part of me just goes, and I could be wrong because I don't know anything about anything, but part of me is just like, but that's just not... They're babies. They can't speak yet. That's just part of it. It's like...
But they can. They just... I mean...
No, but a baby can't speak. It can't form words yet, right?
But you're just thinking in a different context because you've been alive for this amount of time. But what a baby is doing is the same as what...
Trying to speak,
No.
for sure.
What a baby is doing is the same as what we're doing in this room right now, just at a less articulated level. It's making noises because it's trying to communicate information.
Sure, but that information still isn't fully formed because it's a baby. That's what I
But the
kind of
baby
feel.
knows what it's saying. It just can't communicate with another being. It knows it's hungry, tired, angry, frustrated, too hot, too cold, etc.
But if the baby could speak, it would be like, tired.
The baby
it wouldn't be like,
the baby can speak and is speaking. It is just not speaking the same language as us. So if you can...
I just don't vibe with that.
It's not about vibing. It's a fact. They can measure that a baby is making noises in reference to stimuli.
For sure.
Like anything.
I saw the Simpsons episode.
If you poke the baby with a hot prod, it's going to scream.
Yeah, because you're torturing it.
That's language.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's speech. That's communication. That's all of those things. What you do with a baby, a baby actually has a larger vocal range than someone who speaks a single language. And what we do with children is we actually narrow the vocal range down. What we think we're doing is expanding their mind. But what we're actually doing is, no, you do it like this. Don't do it like that, do it like this. Specific, we train them in, which is why kids who are bilingual, it's easier for them to pick up broader concepts and pick up new languages later in life.
I've heard that it's easier when you're...
Because they're not thinking in language, they're thinking in concept.
Right, okay,
Because they have the overlap of language. They're thinking, this is the abstraction of the thing. I don't think cup or the Korean word for cup or the whatever. I think, vessel that liquid is contained in that I consume.
Sure.
The concept of a cup. I'm
too much of a dumb cunt to know that.
You're not. You get exactly what I'm saying. It's a concept. The concept is pain. The concept is hunger. The concept is warmth. That's the communication process occurring.
See, and that's why I think even in Doctor Who I like it more, because he's like, it's hungry. Whereas she's like, so he was in the Coruscant and all this happened. And I'm like, he's just having a conversation.
But he is also 50 years old, so it's a different context of...
No, for sure, yeah.
He, for whatever...
But isn't he meant to still be a baby? Like, he's not a 50-year-old man. He's like, they've implied now that Yoda is like... not necessarily 850, but more like a dog. You do the opposite. He's like 67 or whatever,
IG-11, the only reference is IG-11 saying that different species, grow at different rates or something like that.
Yeah. No, which I totally buy. And I understand
one throwaway line.
Because Yoda's super old. So you're like, yeah, a baby could be 50 and it's... I don't know. I don't know. It just felt like it was just a lot, and I just feel like
Also,
apart from all the
I think
lightsaber
you-
stuff, I'm just like,
I think you misread the Coruscant bit. She was there during all that time. She probably just knew. Maybe isn't that a possibility?
sure. Oh, that she's like, I recognize Baby Yoda. Then she'd be like, I recognize you.
Or even if
Wouldn't
she's
she
just
say that? She'd be like, I recognize you. I recognize you.
even
Grogu.
if-
Grogu.
even if she's just vaguely communicating, the sense that he's giving that these people train me in emotions, in thoughts, in concepts, not in language, but trained at this place. There were lots of Jedi. All of these emotions are being conveyed through. And she's immediately like, oh, right, if this baby was trained and is this old and has been around this long and has been hiding this long, I can connect all these dots because I was a Jedi, I was there, I did all that shit.
I get that. Yeah. She's like, no, that makes sense.
I'm connecting it all and I'm relaying the information to Mando. Her now saying all the information she's saying now, I got it. I got it all because I'm aware of the universe. So when she said it very briefly and sharply to Mando, I was like, good, because I'm already there. Yeah, we already have all this knowledge and awareness. She fills in some gaps, gives us a little bit of new information, and then it's on to the next thing. And it's like, let's see where this kid's at. Let's see what the level is that I'm working with here. Oh, the kid
He's got the Force. Fuck him.
No, that's not it. Because she's not like that at all. She's like, he'll only use the Force with the attachment to this guy. That's why I'm taking a step back.
Okay. Yeah.
That's what... She's all in, yeah? When the baby Yoda arrives and it's like, here. She's like, all right, let's see what we got. I think she's honestly at the point, at the beginning when they're getting into this situation and communicating, what I'm reading is, all right, she's considering.
Yeah. All right. And then he doesn't use the Force with her, he uses it with Meta. Okay.
And
No,
he sees
all
the
of that for
attachment and
sure.
sees the connection, and even at the end, I'm going to go say goodbye. She thinks it over when he leaves and then just follows him there and is like,
I'm not going to do this.
let's not. Come on.
Yeah.
Like, this is tearing you apart. I use the Force. I know what you're feeling, you know?
I mean, honestly, I think the thing for me, and you're going to hate this comparison, but I'm going to say it anyway. When Carl Weathers sees Baby Yoda, there's so much emotion and feeling. And I don't want her to be like, oh, Baby Yoda, Baby
Because
Yoda.
of history.
For sure.
The first
But
time
she
you
just
saw-
looks at him and
No.
she's just like,
Yeah,
I hope
but-
it's because of him.
What was the first time, you're wrong, but what was the first time Carl Weathers saw Baby Yoda?
I just got very tired
can't
thinking
even
about her
remember.
terrible acting.
Can't even remember.
Season 1?
Yeah.
Nah, I don't give a shit.
You
I'm
can't
beyond.
remember.
No.
can't remember.
Why would I remember?
Because
What-
you're making the point
What
that
did,
it
what,
was
did,
better.
what did you ask? No, Carl Weathers this time. Just in
Oh,
terms
by
of
second
scene.
interaction after history, yeah. But
Yeah.
no, in the moment,
I can't imagine the next time. If Ahsoka rocks up at the end of this season, she rocks up and she sees Baby Yoda, I'd imagine it'll be the same. You know? Just this, I don't know, like at the end, the music's swelling, it's the soundtrack this whole episode is incredible. The music's so much better this season. I don't know what happened. I guess they went, hey, your soundtrack sucked for season 1. Everyone only likes that one song. He's like, I spent all my time doing that one song. So he's just really kicked it into gear. I forgot his name, but it's a very long, amazing
Ludwig
name.
Göransson, I think.
What a name. I love it. That's what Baby Yoda's name should be.
Yeah, there's a track right near the end that particularly stands out. It's like a riff on the Mandalorian theme, but done in like kind of childlike percussion or something. I don't know.
Right, yeah. As he's
really
coming back on the ship
very
and stuff.
light, and it's
Yes,
like,
it's spectacular.
I didn't believe that they were going to say goodbye, but that's the song you'd play.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I don't know, because you were saying before, it's like, this episode's like very unexpected and all the things. Like for me, it was just very expected.
I didn't.
She's
think
like,
that-
rocks up and she's like, they're doing a thing. She versus that person. She'll win. Mando is getting that spear at the end of the episode. Fucking, there's no way he's not. And she's not training Baby Yoda, because then what's the show? It has to be him in the ship with Baby Yoda doing things. Otherwise, there's no show anymore. So this just felt like it, I don't know, it just suddenly, as it was happening, I was like, they just, I don't know, yeah. It was just a weird thing where out at the end, she's like, Thorn, I don't know, train Baby Yoda. And I just suddenly was like, she just feels like a lot of these episodes where I'm like, I'm really in. Like episode 2, I'm like, I'm so in. This is much better than episode 2. But like at the end of that one, I felt very much like, just a bite-sized nugget of an episode. I really feel like maybe...
Because it's a season.
And do you know what I think it is as well? And yeah, actually, we rewatched all of season 1 all together. I watched it in 2 sittings, bam, bam. So I watched it in like 2 movies. And I was like, oh, this season's amazing. I remember being like, this wasn't as good as I wanted it to be. But I'm like, no, this is fucking incredible shit. So I imagine if I just rewatch this season a big bunch at the end, if the three tie up. Also, this...
Imagine if you just weighted Gina Carano's character based on her introductory episode.
Terrible. A terrible character.
But that's what you're doing with Ahsoka. Because Ahsoka is
Ahsoka
is a guest character
that
will reoccur later on. It's the same thing. And we're going to get more from that character. And I would argue we're going to get more from one season of Ahsoka than we've got from all this time with Gina Carano. I think when she comes back, we're really going to get some special stuff. And I think that Mando's probably going to fight off Gideon with the spear. But I've got a feeling that Ahsoka's going to rock back up and probably fight Gideon.
I think from the very get-go of like this show, Dave Filoni was like, you know how I gave Ahsoka those cool white sabers and did some kind of, she's not a Jedi or whatever, so they're different colors. And then he was like, well, this Darksaber. What if I give the Darksaber to a villain? Because the heroes were holding it last time, but now this new show, give it to a villain so that we can have dual-wielding lightsaber thing and the Darksaber. Like when she left at the end, I was like, oh, I really expected Moff Gideon to rock up, like ships coming in. Honestly, that probably soured me a little bit where I'm like, just god damn it. Like, but I don't know. There was a moment right at the end of the fight where she had one lightsaber and she goes, and she brings it back and the lightsaber's going like this way. And I'm like, you know, like she held it in the other Clone Wars, you know, where she always held it. And it just suddenly was like, that just feels so like, I don't know. That just felt so like, yeah, I don't know. There was just something about it where I was like, I don't know. Just something about it just felt so like, what the fuck is this? The lightsaber fights were great, but I also just felt like, I just don't care. This reminds me of what you say when you watch Clone Wars. You're like, it's just lightsabers being like... Me and my brother watched this. We all had a big conversation last week about Clone Wars and all this stuff. And we laughed 3 times throughout the episode. And we were having a pretty good time until, I don't know, then the end, and we're like, And we were like, fuck, you're going to hate this more than anything. Because it's just lightsabers being like... And it's all throughout it.
Because it's like...
But to me, that's the same as how I feel when I watch the Clone Wars.
Sure.
They're dancing around,
I'll
jumps on a
the
roof.
difference,
Yeah, okay.
So there's 3 guys in a forest. We get 3 silhouettes. We get 3 kills. And it's orchestrated exactly like you would expect it to be. It's nothing particularly special or engaging, but it's not 2 people just going...
Oh,
No, but this is Clone Wars. And I'm going to do it for so long that you're going to walk out and get... Yeah, and this is Mandalorian.
Well, the first scene is probably the best scene in Mando.
But it's the same. When she gets into the town, it's the same thing. It's like, there's too many of them. When I'm on the roof blocking, I'm going to jump down. Now I'm going to stalk them out, one at a time, hit them. And there's a couple of goofy fan thingy, I'm doing things that everyone knows from the thing before. But Bo-Katan, it's the same as Bo-Katan, man.
For sure.
I just don't think that... I think that your investment in these characters is what is ultimately deciding your enjoyment of these episodes.
But they put in this character from...
No, but hear me out,
Dave Filoni's investment in them.
Hear me out. I can't get a point out this week. Bo-Katan you had no investment in. So when that character is introduced and they do fuck all with her, you don't care.
Yeah.
This character you're completely invested in. When they do more with her than they did with Bo-Katan, who you were happy with, you're not happy with this.
Yeah, exactly.
I just don't,
Because she's fucking Darth Vader's fucking apprentice.
Because you
I
can't
want to see that movie, and I suddenly realized we have now canonically made her alive.
That's
then.
a great...
So my movie's over. And so forever, I will just... No, not forever. For this week, I watched it yesterday, and I suddenly realized that I was just sad. I'm like, she's in this show because Dave Filoni loves her and everyone loves her and he wants to put her in. And it makes sense for Mando and Baby Yoda to meet a Jedi. I suddenly realized I just don't want her to be that Jedi for this story. I want Dave Filoni to hone his skills in this series and then in 5 years' time, make the Ahsoka Vader movie set 10 years earlier. And I will change my mind when more stuff happens and I go, that's good enough. But watching her fight some random woman with a spear, I was like, that is an amazing fight. I really like the choreography. It's amazing. You know what else is amazing? Mission Impossible fights, where they fight that Asian guy in the bathroom. That's amazing. It's as good as that. It's just a great fight scene, but the emotional feeling, I can just Just imagine that scene, but that's Vader. And she loses. That's the greatest thing I've ever seen in my life. So that's just fundamentally what just suddenly awoken in me. Like a force awakening in me, Kieran. I don't know, I just suddenly realized that and I was like, wow, I didn't realize how much I loved her.
If you realized this during fucking Clone Wars or Rebels.
I did.
Not now, during our...
I did when I watched season 7 of Clone Wars, and I watched 12 terrible episodes. But I retroactively went and watched those 4 episodes with Bo-Katan and I was actually angry. I was like, I've watched so much Bo-Katan, I'm angry I have to watch these 4 episodes, the end of season 7. And I went, you know what? As a standalone, now I've separated myself months apart, I now agree with most people online. This is a great standalone 4 episodes. As the final 4 episodes of Clone Wars, it's garbage because they should be Ahsoka versus Vader, and she knows who Vader is. But now I've been a whole year of knowing that that is not anything I'll ever get. I actually really enjoyed those 4 episodes. Darth Maul's in a box at one point. It's a fantastic episode, and I won't get into that. That's another discussion.
We're not talking about.
But that's my emotional
Rebels.
like as I realized that it was only seeing her in live action where I went, this is like a cementing moment because this live action series is more important than Clone Wars and Rebels because you can. I mean, Rebels did some crazy shit, so I can imagine them cutting that. I think the main thing I've realized is that what I mostly want to say is 2 fake Boba Fett's fighting dragons. And I don't know, I don't think I've ever felt as good as that episode. And that did stuff where it's like, big Death Star exploding. And he's like, but now we're all slaves. Winning a war isn't good. And it just, everything in that episode, I think that's what I want to say. This was good. I kind of feel like this was a different show. And this felt like a backdoor pilot to another show that I'm not sure I maybe want to see. But it's
Again, I think you are just over-attached. I think that you can't separate...
For sure, because it's the same character.
It's the same fucking thing we've been watching for... What chapter are we up to? 13?
Oh, yeah.
So 13
this season
chapters,
is very different than
it's
last season.
really the same with just different skins.
But season 1 was like a bounty hunter doing little missions. And built to a climax.
This is a bounty hunter doing little missions.
Yeah, but it's him just meeting other Dave Filoni characters that he didn't finish arcs with. That's all it's been so far, you know. And a Boba Fett. I don't know. I just suddenly feel like it's like, I don't know.
I think,
it just doesn't
again,
feel as...
because you're over-attached. I think you just attached to all these other elements, and it's...
It is what it is.
Well...
He shouldn't have got me so attached to everything else.
It's not even that good!
That's pretty good.
It's not! And this is pretty good. And you're like, fuck it. And everything's reversed on its head.
It's pretty
I
good.
honestly just want to watch all the Clone Wars now, so I can just sit here and articulate to you why it's all trash, and why this is actually doing things tighter and more effectively, and actually really taking a lot of thought and putting a lot less in, but doing a lot more with it.
I think if this was an animated episode, you'd hate it. This is just Clone Wars, man. Clone Wars is just this.
I've watched Clone Wars. It's not. Do you know what Clone Wars is? A character that I don't know walking through a junkyard for 20 minutes to meet another character that should be interesting that isn't because
you missed the introduction. He has like a 3-parter where he's introduced with the Silent Adventures. You're talking about Savage Approach. The second worst name in Star Wars.
It's not the
You've
same.
You've got the worst one, cunt.
No, you're wrong.
No, I said that.
You're so wrong.
I just said that to anger you.
I'm gonna leave that in because I want the internet to
but I'm right, and I feel happy.
Grogu is so much better than Savage Opress.
Savage Opress.
You're
Savage Opress.
It's spelt savage, though.
Yeah, but you're pronouncing it wrong. That's racist.
No, I'm not.
The way the tone in
Baddie McBad Guy is literally that guy's name, and you think it's better than actually something that fits with the race that has been pre-established in the universe.
I felt like it was pre-established. They all started with Y, so that's what's really vibing with me. You know, why isn't he called Yogu? I think Yoda, Yodel, Yaddle, whatever it is, and Yogu. You know, and I can call him Yogorovich.
I didn't even think this was that good. I mean, it's good.
No, but see, that's what I mean. So that opening scene
I disagree
is
with
perfect,
you still.
But it's like...
I disagree with your actual criticisms.
For sure.
Is what I'm saying.
For sure.
But I thought that there were elements that were good, but now I feel like I'm being forced to defend the entire thing because you're reading it from just
the perspective I came into the episode. Everyone goes into it however they go. Like, I fucking met this guy who watched the final season of Game of Thrones, was like, I liked it. It's the same as all of it. And I'm like, he's systematically wrong in every single way. He doesn't know who Jorah is, but you know what? Let him enjoy it. I was so invested. Now I hate it more than anything. Every time I think about it, I want to fucking die. Because I was just so invested. I was so into it. And then it just fell apart. I'm not to say that this is anything like that, but this is similar in terms of just having so much. Like I didn't know what I wanted, but when it happened, I went, I guess that's not what I wanted.
Clone Wars is just slogging through endless hours of trash to find 3 character beats that kind of work. And this is an episode of television that does character beats in one go with one character that you can have no idea about, that all works perfectly for kind of both audiences. The idea that you would say those two things are the same is just so wrong. I couldn't disagree with it more. They're so far apart from each other. The Clone Wars and Rebels wishes it could be The Mandalorian. And The Mandalorian is so far away from greatness still, I think. It's, at this point in time,
Hearing you say that, it's like, but this should have been the greatest episode of all time. Ahsoka training Baby Yoda, my favorite Star Wars character, with Mando. These are like 3 of my favorite aspects of Star Wars. That should have been the greatest moment ever. And she's just like, and I'm just like, what? It just, honestly, her reaction to every single scene, all I kept thinking was the last shot of The Force Awakens. Like, there's so much acting involved. He's just acting in his face. And I just felt that she was just constrained by the makeup, the big prosthetics, talking with a puppet and a man surrounded by a CGI green screen thing. You know, I know it's LED, whatever. But it's like, the Oval Office? No, what do they call it?
I honestly don't. Volume. That doesn't make sense, because that could not be more immersive than having a puppet, a man in a suit of armor, and the entire geography of the space.
Then she's got no fucking excuse for being so bad. Except I've seen her in other stuff, like the Marvel stuff, and I expected
she's not
it
as bad
to be
as you're
bad.
saying, and maybe you're just tilted by your expectation based on you've heard this character speak so much in a different thing, and now that it's different, it's bad. Instead of just being different.
You know what? I actually had this conversation last night. Me and Tim, my brother, who agrees with me with most points, who knows? We suddenly came to the realization at the end of the conversation, and I think this is a great way to end some of my thoughts. I am now the guy I hate who hates Last Jedi. Who's like, I don't like Luke because he was like this. But for me, it's not that they've made her boring. It's not that they made her different. It's they made her boring.
But
except for the sword fighting. Sword fighting is always good though.
But after we saw The Last Jedi, went to a pub and conversed for 5 hours about it.
Yeah.
And you know what the difference there was? We were both disappointed. And we were both happy about things and sad about things, but we hadn't made our minds up. And I feel like you walked in today with your mind made up.
We're making content. I've got to make a point.
No, you don't.
I've seen the internet. Everyone loves it. And I'm like, you know what? She's wrong.
I don't think you have to take a stand. I think it's perfectly okay to be like...
Just sit on the fence?
No, it's not sitting on the fence to say she was shaky at the start. She did some good stuff in the middle. I think the character beat at the end makes perfect sense for what we know about the character, where she is in the universe. I think the Thrawn thing is just for people who like the book, who want a blue guy who was in a book that they like that got thrown in the trash. You know, that's what it's for, ultimately.
But Thrawn's not like a guy from a book. Those books
he is.
No, I know he's from those books. But those books don't exist in this universe's canon.
They will.
No.
They're going to do those
because
books.
Thrawn exists in Rebels.
Yeah, but he never did the stuff he did in the books, because that came after the...
But it's all just like...
No, it's not.
They botched him.
They haven't done anything. That's why people didn't like Rebels.
I hate Thrawn.
Yeah, because they didn't do anything. That's why you don't like him.
Yeah.
Because, do you know what they were doing? Spinning their wheels, because his storyline doesn't start until after. Remember how they put Moff Tarkin in Clone Wars? And you're like, I love it. Because they put a guy in, and he's not doing the thing I know he's going to do in the future.
No, but he's on the good guy's side, but you see that he's a cunt. That's what's awesome. He's on their side, but every time he speaks, you're like, you're a fucking bad guy.
What the reasoning is, I'm saying that they're introducing the character so that he can do the thing that you actually want him to do later on.
It just felt like she was like, remember that other show that I was in? And I'm like, I fucking wish I didn't.
To you, it was remember the other show, and to me, it was remember the books, because more people care about those books.
It's the most member-berries thing I've ever felt. I was just like, oh.
In what reference? What do you mean?
Thorn. She said Thorn, and I think that's the moment I was like, I don't think this episode's working for me anymore.
It's for the book, people. They want the guy from the books. It's not your... Yeah, because your frame of reference is...
Rebels. Oh.
Yeah, the terrible character in Rebels that they didn't do properly. But it's actually... The actual demographic for that line is the significantly larger number of people who read the books than watched Rebels. Because way more people read those books
100%.
than watched that show.
I can't imagine how many people watch Rebels.
Yeah. Those books were the sequel trilogy to people, to an entire generation that grew up with the original trilogy. They were a bit older than us, and they didn't get more Star Wars content for 16 years. And we were growing up and getting all the new stuff, but those people had to just read what happened after.
God forbid.
And through reading that, they got this incredible character that they connected with in this very different villain that I've seen a lot spoken of. I've not read those books, but I think that what they're going for here is this is another component we're going to set up. This is another character. This is another Star Wars thing we're going to redeem. You know those terrible droids from Phantom Menace? Now you love when he rocks up to that shop with Princess Carolyn and there's 3 slapped. Cool, yeah, they got history. I'm all for it. I hate that shit in Phantom Menace, but now it's fine. When Bill Burr says Canto Bite, it's filling out the universe. But I hated Canto Bite when I watched The Last Jedi.
100%. No,
that's what this show's doing.
Okay, no, that's a pretty good point. I think proper, like, because I've rewatching a bunch of Rebels, I think I've proper realized it's like, yeah, Thorne's stuff in it is like uber disappointing to me. Because every time he appeared, I'm like, it's that fucking guy from those books. When's he going to do the thing?
The sequel trilogy.
Sorry, yes.
Yeah.
Sorry.
That's
I don't
fine.
know. And
That's fine.
honestly, it's just like... I really, really wish I hadn't rewatched a bunch of shit this week.
Me too.
You know, I'm going to be honest, man. I've been watching West Wing, like, for the last couple of months. I haven't watched a single episode of West Wing this week. I have just been watching Rebels, Clone Wars, Ahsoka epis, some Cad Bane stuff, because I goddamn love that cowboy son of a bitch. And just getting it all. And I think that was probably to the detriment. Because I was watching some Thrawn stuff. And he sucks. So when I heard him, I just remember being like, you botched him. And now you're like, can you forgive me? I'm going to do it better this time. I'm like, I don't believe you, Dave Filoni. I don't believe you. I don't believe you.
I did like the juxtaposition of the Western Eastern on either side of the gate.
Samurai cowboy scene.
We have a straightforward 2-man standing down a deserted, dusty town, squaring off against each other, and then like a Japanese garden on the other side with dueling samurai. I thought that was pretty effective. I think that ultimately this was just our introductory episode to this character, Ahsoka. And this is, I think, pretty damn good introduction for the Mandalorian, for a Jedi character that has existed in other parts of this universe, but this is essentially delivering this character to a new audience of people that haven't watched her before. And in that sense, we get that she's an incredibly effective combatant.
Against henchmen, not against a mini-boss.
I mean, she
lost the lightsaber. It's embarrassing.
She didn't even get touched though. So, I mean, just is like, you lost a hand.
I just remember being like, you don't want to... Yeah. I would have loved her to lose a hand.
Plus, one thing I like about Star Wars is that, like, the Jedi were at their power at a time and they're not anymore. And they're not dueling swordsmen all over the universe everywhere. So they're not as attuned as they once were.
Yeah, but they weren't attuned by fighting people. They were attuned by practicing.
And fighting people.
But practicing doesn't mean actually killing or fighting anyone. She can practice alone, you know?
But
Luke practices alone. He's got a little droid.
But that doesn't make you better. Actually actually doing the thing is what makes you better. Being in the real world situation is infinitely better than practice.
Well, over 16 years trying to find the blue man. Don't you think she was fighting people, practicing.
I don't think she was fighting other swords people. I think she was just cutting people down with their laser swords. And then when someone
Unless you finally met someone with a Beskar sword, and she's like, I'll give that to my Beskar.
I think other lightsabers and other sword fighters in general are few and far between now because they were all hunted down and eradicated. So, I mean, if you're not accepting this, you're not accepting the original trilogy where, you know, a robot man and an old man can't sword fight very well anymore because they haven't done it in ages.
Yeah.
So
I think that's more just because of the era, you know.
I mean,
the sword fighting.
no, it's not. It's actually part of the story. It's part of the thing. It's like they're not as good as they once were. They had an amazing battle over a volcano. That was the idea while making. Did they want to have the sword fight be better than it was in the movie? Yeah, but was it meant to be two 20-year-olds flipping and doing crazy shit?
No,
never.
No.
So the idea that they degrade over time, Ahsoka has degraded as much as Obi-Wan and Anakin would have. So, I mean, look, I like just the live action combat in general. I think that when you have to do a lightsaber in the real world, you're actually thinking about the force of it. And when you do it animated, you're not anymore. It's just another animated element. And it's just a glow stick that you hit things against. And there's just like there's a real inherent softness to like Clone Wars and Rebels with lightsabers that I just really... It doesn't jive with me.
I understand what you mean.
So when I hear a blade ignite and it's heavy and it's rumbling and I can feel the base of it.
Chops a tree in half.
And when it hits someone, you feel that weight versus every episode of the Clone Wars I've ever seen, except for one fight. It's like just weightless and nothing and there's no emphasis. What you've actually done is you've missed the point of the lightsaber, which is that it's an incredibly dangerous, heavy weapon that is hard to wield and has force and weight and it's fucked. Like to actually think about what it is, and they're just glow sticks.
But I also feel like they've got the force where they can throw someone, so they can use the force to make it lighter. They can do anything. She fucking throws half a tree at someone. It's like they can do that. Why can't she make the lightsaber a bit lighter for her? You know. So those things to me, I'm like, sure. But when I really get into it. Like, if I really get into it, I'm like, that fight shouldn't be a fight. She should just be like, force, rip the weapon from her hand and just cut her in half. So, like, so if I get really into it with the weight of everything, I'm like, it's all nonsense and none of it makes sense. And no one should ever be fighting. Someone should come up with a lightsaber, they should use the force, turn the lightsaber off and be like, oh shit, my lightsaber off, stab them in the throat, you know. So I feel like I just watch it. Because if I get right into it with the weights and everything, I'm like, it's just stupid.
Well, I think
just use the force. Why isn't everyone just always using the force and not
it requires
snapping it?
Concentration and skill and precision and all these things. These people are, at the end of the day, just human beings with a power. And I think that power
but even
gets...
Baby Yoda could stop a fire thing. Couldn't Ahsoka just be like, push back your fire? She doesn't have to jump away from Mando's fire. Just push it back at him. Light him on fire.
I mean, I can't remember that fight scene well
he shoots
enough.
fire.
Yeah, then she jumps back, right?
And she jumps back and it like catches onto her cloak and she does a spin.
That's what I mean. So in the moment...
I've said it like 10 times, so it's like...
in the moment...
I said I don't like it, but it's still a great scene.
In the moment, is it easier to stop, concentrate, and use the force? Or is it easier to just jump? I mean...
She's using the force to jump though, right? To jump like that.
Yeah, I don't know. I guess it just makes...
I always imagine they're using the force to jump.
Of course.
Yeah, right, yeah. Because otherwise they're just like weird leaping frogs.
I think there's an element of it, but yeah, I don't know. Thanks for sucking all the fun out of this episode.
I've had a great time. It's amazing. Every time I talk to you about Clone Wars, I want to kill myself. Now
we're not talking about we're banning it. We're banning it. I'm banning it right now on this episode. We're not allowed to talk about the Clone Wars.
I feel like I got it all out.
We're not
with
allowed
Ahsoka, though, because it's about Ahsoka. She's a Clone Wars character.
And I don't.
She's 1,000
and
episodes.
that's fine. We're here. We've done.
She's only in it because of Clone Wars and Dave Filoni, creator of that show.
We've done what we've done. Moving forward, we're just going to talk about the episode. I want to talk about scenes. I want to talk about
what scenes?
moments.
What about, okay.
I don't know, it's all gone. It's all
But there's
gone.
no
I don't
scenes.
have
It's like there's a
There
fight at the
is. There were
start,
so many.
and then he goes, he's like, where's the Jedi? And they're like,
No,
Go
man.
kill the Jedi.
No, because I'll just pull up a clip of you from another week talking about like a scene that was not even as good as some of the scenes were in this episode. You'll be like, yeah, I get what you mean. I mean, there were great scenes. I think...
I'm sure there were.
I think fucking Ahsoka sitting down and contemplating what to do with one of our favorite characters, and I don't know. I thought
Say your feelings. Go into it.
I don't know what my feelings are anymore. I've lost it all.
Because I've shaped it where you're like, oh, I'm actually wrong, and I've just got excited because lightsabers were in scenes. Because I feel like that's what people did. They just saw lightsabers and they're like, oh my god.
If that were true, I'd watch the Clone Wars like you.
That's why I'm so confused you like this. Because it's like, lightsabers. And she appears and she's like, and it's like, that first scene, it's spectacular. But she also appears for 1 second too many in each shot. You know, the lightsabers are on for 1 2 seconds. Like, it's things that I would shape. It's like, I don't know. It's like, and then in the middle of the episode, they talk and he's like, what did you hear? And she's like, I don't know, Coruscant. That's cool, I guess. I don't like knowing about Baby Yoda. Baby Yoda's a fun enigma. I don't like mysteries.
Every scene you are delivering in this is just recontextualized as the like. I don't know. Like you could do this about any episode of The Mandalorian. I could be like, fucking Raylan Givens was just shit, and his fucking character was nothing, and he got one like shit flashback where a group of like people we don't even know just walk in. What do they have? Like 5 pistols and they take over the town. No one else in the town has a pistol and they just roll over. He just gets away. The guy doesn't even fucking see him when he as if you wouldn't see him from that far away. And then he just happens to take the most valuable thing that'll get him the best set of armor. And he comes back in and all it takes is 1 rocket and a couple of bullets and all the enemy. We can be that about any of this.
But that's a small town. We saw it about 7 buildings and he walks into the main bar and he kills all of them having a drink because they didn't think there's any threat.
Because no one shot him in the neck.
Yeah, because they can't
Again,
aim.
I can be needlessly negative about it, but I wasn't. Do you understand the point I'm trying to make?
Because you didn't emotionally have that feeling. I watched this episode and I was like, wow, lightsabers are pretty cool. Almost everything else, I don't know how I feel about this. And I gave you that feeling. We're talking about our feelings. Getting angry because I had a feeling. Every time I talk about Clone Wars, I want to die. When you were saying Mr. Sunday has no feelings about Clone Wars, I was like, at least he's not making me want to die from enjoying a thing. And it's just a funny parallel now. I'm so shocked that you enjoyed it so much. I generally thought I'd actually pretend I liked it. So you'd say something and I'd be like, oh, you hate it a lot. I'll pretend I like it a bit. Because otherwise we're both going to be the same, where I'm like,
I think you're reframing things in a very particular manner that I don't agree with. But I don't agree with what you're saying. I think that I think that this episode was pretty good, and I don't think it was the most amazing thing ever, and I don't think it was
pretty good. But I expected this to be literally my favorite episode of anything because there's
that's a ridiculous expectation.
Is it?
Yeah.
Why?
Because you should never walk into anything with this is going to be the greatest thing ever.
But that's just how things are.
Just because there's a character I know in it, it's going to be the best episode of a show that I love more than anything else on television right now.
Sure, exactly.
No.
Why not?
Why?
Why can't I have that expectation? That's why I was disappointed by Game of Thrones. I expected it to be the best thing ever.
No.
Because it was the best thing ever.
No.
If I have an expectation, like Rise of Skywalker, I expected it to be at least competent. And then when I rewatch it, every time I think about it, I'm like, it's not even
You walked out of Rise of Skywalker up. I had a conversation with you. You're like, this is the best thing ever, and this and this and this and
because
this.
I watched episode
You're
3
gonna be
of
the
Game of
complete
Thrones,
reverse.
and I was like, yay. And then it dawned on me that I did that thing, and I just went, oh no, you've ruined 7 characters in one, and now it's my least favorite thing. I watched it and went, yeah, things I like, I'm so into things like Star Wars, Game of Thrones, Lord of the Rings, any of those things that like, I have a feeling. That's why I've watched this episode 3 times, because I'm like, I was too emotionally into the thing. And on the 3rd watch, I'm like, it's pretty good. But you know what? I just still wish Ahsoka wasn't in it, and that's it. Could just be any Jedi. Could be Cal Katniss from the game. I don't know if that works for timelines, but it could be anyone. But it could be Kit Fisto.
I agree.
He survived.
I agree. It could be anyone. Isn't that... Why is that a problem?
Because if
we don't disagree.
No, because if it was anyone else, then in 3 years, when Dave Filoni has figured out his shit, he can direct the Ahsoka vs. Vader movie that I want to see. But we can't see that now. So that's my main initial 24 hours ago I watched this episode. That's my feelings. I've seen it 3 times though in 24 hours.
What are
and I
your
had a
feelings?
full-time job that I went to work.
It's mostly
today.
good, but that you don't like it.
No, it was mostly great, except the one aspect of it is that we're introduced to the Jedi, who's not a Jedi, and I just wish it was a different Jedi.
That's it. That's all.
That's all it is.
You just wish that it was if it was no-name Jedi that we'd never met before, saying all the same lines.
Only if I knew that because we weren't putting Ahsoka into a timeline post Darth Vader, we were going to be getting this Darth Vader property with her. Because if we weren't going to get that, then I guess we're not getting that, so use that. But that, to me, I don't understand why Dave Filoni didn't. If I was Dave Filoni, I would have been like, I'm going to do all these things. I'm going to prove myself. Oh, people didn't like my first episode, but kind of liked episode 5. Season 2, I'll get an episode, I'll do things. Season 3, Season 4, and then maybe I'll be able to pitch someone that'll actually let me write and direct my Ahsoka, my Star Wars character, and my Darth Vader movie.
The problem is that he already achieved that goal. It's just that the goal isn't what you thought it was.
No, he doesn't want to kill her. Which I think is like, why?
He wants to make the Mandalorian, not that dumb movie you're talking about. And he's already got to where he wants to be, and now he's bringing other characters
That's
in
an
that
embarrassment.
he's already worked with.
His dream was to have Ahsoka fight random lady with a spear.
His dream was to make a live-action Star Wars television show, which he has now done.
For sure.
That was the dream. He achieved the dream. I don't think the dream was down the line make another movie with this character. I think it was, this is where we are. This is what I've got available to me.
Okay, so now I know what I think would have been better. Have him meet a Jedi, this episode, if this is the arc of the Jedi, and have it be Ezra, and have Ezra be like, Ahsoka's dead. I don't know how he'd say that, and then I'd be like, sweet. Now at some point, I know that Darth Vader and Ahsoka fight, and he wins, and he kills his apprentice, and cements his Darth Vader-ness, because I feel like, I just think just for me. But that's a personal thing where I think that's the tragedy. I would love to be able to watch that first Clone Wars movie and be like,
but nothing
there
in
is
that
this
episode
tragedy.
makes that not a thing that happened. Yeah? Like nothing that was presented.
But Ahsoka's alive, so.
So? They could have still faced each other?
I don't want them to, well, they have faced each other in Rebels, and I find that scene fantastic for its minute, and then when it ends, I'm like, there's not really any stakes and emotion to that, because with the lightsabers, I want it to come to a confrontation where one of them actually kills the other, and it should be Darth Vader. I mean, obviously because he survives, but that would just be so
That's the entirety
amazing.
of Clone Wars! Is people not killing each other.
Which
It's
I think
characters coming together who
For
we
sure.
know survive that nothing happens with.
Which
constantly.
is, so your frustration there is my frustration here, where it's like, I just wish that the fight she
It's
was in...
not at all. It's not even that, because we're past it. The character is in the past. It's
Only
past the
because she
period that
appeared
you
in this
care
episode.
about.
Only she has never been in something post Darth Vader till yesterday, and now we'll never get that movie. That was just like I didn't realize how sad I was about.
We'll
that.
never get the movie where she died. Yes.
Yeah.
Which is what you wanted, but
I want Rogue One, but her. Imagine Rogue One.
Why
but
don't
we
you
cared.
just? But
Imagine that. So imagine
that's just not the same movie at all. I don't. Yeah.
Yeah, no, but the Rogue One,
What?
the idea of killing them all at the end is so incredible. It's like
No, it's not. And you know why?
But if they were all, imagine if they killed.
That idea in itself is not incredible, because we see when that idea gets done badly, it's not good, which is what Rogue One is. I don't think that in itself that's a good idea. I think that
It could be a great idea if the characters were incredible. They didn't have to have characters we didn't like. Imagine there were 3 characters we loved. Imagine it was Finn, Rey, and Poe, and then they all died at the end. You'd be like, destroyed.
I think I would be disappointed. I would be like, well, I really wanted more of these characters.
But that's the whole point of killing a character. That's why Game of Thrones works.
Which is
every
why
time
you should-
someone dies, they die before their arc is over.
Which is what I'm saying. Which is why you shouldn't kill all your characters. That's not a good idea.
But if you're doing a standalone movie, that is, because I don't want to see Jyn Erso again, or
Because they're bad
Budget Han
characters.
Solo. Yeah, but if they were amazing characters, imagine how amazing it would be to have 4 characters, or 3, or however many, that we just, oh my god, I would wish we had Jyn Erso again. But she's fucking dead. And just like that hitting you, and then just that tragedy of Darth Vader did that. The villain. Whereas Darth Vader is like, I don't know, he's like a fucking joke, you know? He's wearing Christmas hats. I'm not threatened by this cunt.
His merchandise.
Oh yeah, he is.
But that's what all of Star Wars is ultimately.
Yeah, I'm terrified by how much money I spent on Baby Yoda. I mean, Grigorovich. No, but it's another episode of Mandalorian. This whole season's been much better than season 1, though, that's for sure. Like episode 5 of this season, episode 5 of last season, it's better.
But again, I thought some of the concept art and some of the visuals in the concept art was more well realized than what they actually executed in the episode. I feel like dusty, burnt out forest visual should be my favorite thing ever, but it just didn't quite look as good as I felt it should.
My brother said that, and I disagree. I thought that was my favorite aspect.
Endgame.
Not
Grey and flat and just ugly.
Actually,
should be beautiful.
I actually haven't. I said I had 2 issues with them both around Ahsoka. I actually had a 3rd issue, and I can't believe I didn't get to this point. But the first scene, I'm like, I love the visual of this episode. This is spectacular. And then there's a shot where there's a big castle wall, and Mando walks in. He's like, "Let me in!" Or what? I can't remember what he says. And he walks in. And you've got Mandalorian walking in and the gates closed. I remember being like at that point in the episode, I'm like, this is the best thing I've ever seen. But then at the end of the episode, I remember being like, who the fuck hired Zack Snyder's color grader? And why does this look like a bleak, dour piece of shit? Why is this the planet you decided to put Ahsoka on? You said forest planet with trees and stuff.
Yeah.
And
thematically, that makes sense. The forest is burnt down.
I really liked that. I remember like halfway, I'm like, wow, this is not the forest I fucking expected. Because she's like, it's a forest planet. So I'm like, we're going to get like, I imagined in Force Awakens where she's like, I've never seen so much green. I say that like I don't like that line. That's a great line. But like, I don't know. I imagined it to be vibrant and beautiful. And she's sitting there having margaritas and Rex is there being like, I'm wearing a tie-dye shirt and here's Sabine. And she's like, I'm a hippie mum. I expected something like that. So to have this just fucked place where she's got to infiltrate this castle of evil. And she's like, I'm evil. I'm going to kill everyone or whatever. It's like, I didn't expect that. But it was fine. I don't know. One thing I thought was really interesting. This is totally different. But I'm watching every episode on my big TV. My brother watches it all on his small TV. He came over to my house last night and watched it. And he thought it looked terrible. He's like, this is the first episode that I noticed it was in the LED volume thing. Where it's just like, I just was like, oh. And I watched it on my phone today and I was like, it's spectacular.
Well, the smaller the screen, the
Yeah,
better.
but it's just interesting how like, because I'm so used to it on the big screen, I was like, oh, at least it looked perfect. And he's like, it didn't for me. And I'm like, oh, really? That's fascinating. How like these visuals can really work or really not. Because I remember you being like, the forest one didn't work for me last season. I'm like, oh. It really did, and I thought the desert ones didn't work.
But you didn't think the desert ones didn't work. You
No,
thought
there's
just the speeder.
Sorry,
shots.
yes.
But that's not actually a landscape issue. That is
the speed is interacting with the land.
Yeah, it's like they put an element on that's moving over the top, and then
Very quick as well.
Yeah.
I don't know how a speeder would look either. Like
But
those
the
things, like
actual-
a floating speeder doesn't exist. So
But the actual foliage, if you look at that farm episode from season 1, like it doesn't look real. It just doesn't. I don't care who you are.
I don't
It just-
remember that, but I'm
like,
not saying that.
look at
yeah,
the
yeah.
leaves moving. That's not what trees look like. It's a binary. It's yes or no, 1 or 0.
I just don't think I looked,
It
yeah.
either convinces you or it doesn't. And if you don't look too closely, and
I didn't look too close to it. So
if the TV isn't too big and the detail isn't too crisp, then it just looks like a farm. But if you see it, they also, in the behind the scenes, notice that episode, they used way more blue screen.
Oh, really?
That might be an element of it
Maybe
too.
that is it.
They're not actually using the technology, but I think that, yeah, I don't know. There was something about the look of it that just a bit too
Get that
grey.
Uncanny Valley or
Yeah, I don't know.
the Vista version of Uncanny Valley.
Just there's an image of like in the concept art where Ahsoka has her 2 lightsabers out and she's smacking back a red laser blast from a pistol.
Yeah.
And that concept image looks better than the actual thing. And like it looks like one of her blades is kind of blue because of the angle she's holding
Yeah,
it.
yeah, it's
And the other
moving
one
through.
looks red because she's hitting
It's
it.
hit the- yeah.
And it's like she's halfway because she's in this moment a ruthless killer, but also the closest thing to an actual Jedi that exists now, because the actual Jedi are dead, and the only one left living wasn't actually trained properly. So just by proxy, even though she distanced herself from the Jedi, it's so interesting that she's actually the strongest conduit of what the Jedi actually were. Because everyone's gone. She was actually trained. She's the only one alive that was actually trained as a Jedi.
He was trained too. By multiple Jedi?
Yeah. But
are we getting that flashback where Yoda trains Baby Yoda?
Because
I want it.
I
don't fucking want that.
I think he was trained I think he was trained to a point where, like, because he's an infant, you can only do so much. You know, you can't do complicated things. You can't give a baby a lightsaber. You can't actually train them to be a Jedi because it's still an infant in this species' lifespan. So yeah, it's interesting that they would even train
a baby.
Yeah.
I was about to say it's fucking inhumane and evil, but the Jedi are fucking pieces of shit.
Well, the idea of the Jedi is that they start training at a very young age so that there's no attachment.
Get them into our cult early before they have the brain to realize this is fucked shit.
Everything's a cult, Jax. Everything.
Mostly the Jedi, though.
Every organization, every church, every government, everything is a
cult. The Jedi try and be all of them. Like, we're like a cop government of religious zealot monsters with magic powers. I don't know. I've just suddenly realized, like, would you like to see a flashback to him on Coruscant, or you never? Because I don't. I was like, I almost...
The show is called The Mandalorian. The show should only flash back to The Mandalorian. The show should only be about The Mandalorian. And, you know, peripherally, and I mean, the main storyline is attached to this Baby Yoda character.
The second main character is the Baby Yoda.
But if that reaches its logical endpoint and there's another season of The Mandalorian, I'm totally cool with that. I would like that.
You would like a season without him.
If they get to the logical endpoint with that character and there's a fitting resolution that I don't think should be taken any further, then I would like to see that happen. And I would like perhaps the show to continue. It depends on where things are. It's all depending on what they actually do. But the show is called The Mandalorian. It's about The Mandalorian. It's about this character. And again, I think that's where people can go amiss, is because I think people think the show is more about Star Wars. And sometimes I do too. And I keep creeping back into like all of these hopes and wants and expectations about things that will be fulfilled. But all of these things are only ever going to be peripheral and then maybe come into the forefront at the end of the season. But this show is The Mandalorian. It's not Ahsoka Tano. It's not Bo-Katan. It's not Moff Gideon. It's not Boba Fett. It's never going to be any of those.
From the first episode, because I remember being like, the first episode, it's fine. But maybe it's not perfect because it's like, it's just some fucking dude doing shit. Maybe that's not actually as compelling as having the little infant there as well. And I think that once you lose him, one more season, and I can't imagine him going for, like, I can't imagine him leaving at the end of season 3 and it being a 6-7 season show. Like, to me, that's like, I mean, obviously, where we go, things that happen, obviously, who fucking knows? I could like Ahsoka Tano in 2 episodes. Who knows?
You will.
I probably will.
I'm calling it.
Don't call it, because I'll just like intentionally hate it now.
Good. Go. I don't think you will.
No, that's not true.
I don't think
because
you can't do that.
The episode started and I was like, fuck, holy shit, this is the greatest thing I've ever seen. Then it ended and I was just like, fuck.
And I think
not for me.
Neither of those things are true. It was neither the best or greatest thing at the beginning, and it was not the worst thing you've ever seen. And it fits with her character, and it fits with the position in the universe, and they're giving you a couple of elements that you wanted, but not everything. But I mean, if it were a checklist of things that you wanted before the episode happened, then they've checked most of the boxes.
But you never know what you want. That's the classic fan thing. Like I thought I knew what I wanted until I literally heard Dave Filoni talk. I'm like, actually, I don't want that anymore, which is so fascinating to me. Because then he's like, actually, I don't know. Yeah. We'll see. This is the first episode that ended where I'm like, what the fuck's next episode gonna be? Like, what are we doing now? Like, where are we? Maybe the temple, but I feel like it's too early. This show isn't really do the thing straight away. He'll be like, we're on the way to get the... Oh, shit. I got this side mission I forgot to do last week. And then he'll do it. And then episode 7... Actually, I think episode 7 and 8, Moff Gideon will probably attack him at the temple. Actually, I like that.
Ahsoka will know where he is.
It's very Rebels.
Bo-Katan
It's the most Rebels thing I've ever heard in my life. Go to the magic temple and do magic force shit. I actually love that part of Rebels. It's just rewatching it feels very like, this could be better. So maybe this is him doing it better. Maybe I'll see these temples and I'll be like, this is what I wanted. This is like going into the temples in Alien where you're like, oh, look at all the mythology and the things, but it's Star Wars, so I'm really in. We'll see. I don't know. Who knows?
Hmm.
Have you remembered any of those other thoughts that I've made you forget? The little scenes. Any little scenes you want? What about that townsfolk guy who goes out to fight and then Mando kills everyone before he can and he's like, thank God, I was probably going to die. I thought that was very funny.
I don't know. I didn't know what they were going for with
Neither.
that
I was
character.
like, what is that?
Yeah,
But there's a point where he runs out to fight them, but Mando shoots everyone. And he's like, thanks, man. And Mando's like, and I'm like, Mando, it's so good.
I guess they just wanted to do a character with no dialogue. But then he has dialogue in that first interaction. Like, he's just like, I can't talk to you. And then the rest of the episode, he doesn't talk. And then he's the mayor at the end, I guess.
Is he?
I don't know. Maybe.
I
Maybe he was the mayor the whole time.
And they just he was the mayor the whole time.
These people just took over the town.
Oh, sorry. I see. Sorry, I thought you did. And so in wrap up,
I think overall, one of the better episodes of the show, one of the better episodes of the season. It doesn't have quite the spectacle that episode 1 had, but I think that while it does feel a little bit like we're spinning our wheels, much like it has in most of these episodes, to be honest, that we've just added another character to the catalogue in this show that'll be brought back into the fold towards the end of the season. That is my expectation. I hope that, it goes against my expectation, something completely different happens and, it just goes in a very different way than I'm thinking, but I'm thinking it culminates in the Empire are coming, we know that for sure. Bo-Katan is after that Darksaber. Ahsoka Tano is involved and looking for someone else, so it could make sense that she doesn't come back until next season, now, with where we left her. But I would like if they brought her back.
I think it'd be a really fun thing to actually have Moff Gideon talking to Thrawn before he attacks. Or like maybe we don't even see Thrawn. Maybe he's talking to a hologram and then...
It might feel like, though, that it's like... Because remember when Werner Herzog was the big bad, and then Moff Gideon was the bigger bad, but now Thrawn is the bigger bad? How many times are we going to do that?
No. And I didn't actually mean it like that. I meant more like... So I meant more... Okay. So that's actually a great point why that wouldn't be great, because then it's like, oh, Moff Gideon's just a bitch
Because he's a Moff, that's higher than Admiral, isn't it?
So I have no idea about that stuff, but my thinking just then was like, oh, so... Thrawn was like a guy, but the Empire was a thing. He was talking to Emperor, I can't remember. He was probably talking to the Emperor or whatever, and he's like a head honcho. That's all fucked now. So him and Moff Gideon could be like...
Warring.
Oh no, that I was just going to say like bros, like we're both...
Well, that's what happens when
admirals.
Empires crumble is there's a power vacuum and someone takes over. So, Moff Gideon versus...
Moff Gideon should just start an
Thrawn.
episode beheading Thrawn or something. Like, just
it'd be like, that character you love from the books? Fuck him. Moff Gideon is the big
Oh my
bad.
God, I would love that so much.
That would be very unexpected. That would be a great beat. That would be a great, especially even with, bringing Ahsoka in and getting her to speak the name.
Yeah, that would make that so good.
Just to have him, bring, a big actor in too and just decapitate him. Like Benedict Cumberbatch getting decapitated by...
Give him, a 6-minute opening credits. Have the Mandalorian, boom, doom, doom. Then cut back. Moff Gideon chains him up, just cuts his head off. And then he's like, what did you do? He's like, I went for the head.
Oh my God.
Shock me. But then don't bring another Thrawn from another dimension who we don't know back. Do the thing. But then that's... I've been incredibly negative. This episode's great. It's a great episode. I enjoyed it. I suddenly realized I had the biggest issues with Ahsoka.
I think particular standout that maybe I haven't gone into enough is that I really, really loved the whole middle section. And while I like the little action skirmish at the start and the end, it's not really doing anything that I haven't seen before as well.
For sure.
So it's good. And you said the opposite. I actually thought her makeup looked terrific. I when I first saw her, I thought, oh my God, she's so beautiful. I never thought I would be attracted to Ahsoka. I don't know. She was just standing there with the 2 swords out, especially when she took the cloak off and she had that kind of, I guess, classic-ish outfit that the character had. I just think it all worked really well. I thought there were enough kind of imperfections in it that helped sell it. And I think that it didn't look exactly like the character from the animated show, the same way that like Darth Maul doesn't look the same.
Yeah, it looks nothing like.
They look
in
very
Rebels
different.
when she's an adult, it's huge head thing. Like it's very different, but that's fine.
Yeah. I don't know. I liked it. I like that she's at a different point. This is further ahead in her history. Everything in The Mandalorian seems like connected to Star Wars, but it's also doing its own thing with it all. And this is just another character that they're doing their own thing with. They're taking a thing from another property and they're giving it to you in the and she looks as good as the Twi'leks look, and she looks better. I don't know.
She probably looks better
the
than
way
they
it
do in
moves,
season,
the way it
season 1. Yeah, I think it's just there's something about looking at her. It just was like, yeah, I think it's just watching so much of her as an animated character. I was like, it just doesn't feel like it's the same thing. It feels like
it doesn't feel like it's the same thing.
Yeah,
I'm just saying it in a different tone of voice.
Yeah,
you know?
and to me, it just like it's just like a weird thing where I just suddenly felt like I saw it's an actress in a costume standing on the screen with them all. And I just like that scene where they're all doing the Force stuff. I was just like, I don't know. I just something about it where I'm like, this is not Luke and Ray doing the training where I'm just goosebumps shaking. Like with that first scene, and then it goes Mandalorian, boom, and then it has a shot of Yoda, and the music's still swelling. I was like shaking at the start of the episode, and it just kind of faded, and I was like, I guess I was just hyped, and then the hype faded, and I'm like, this is just like a Clone Wars epi, where I'm like, it's fun. I like Star Wars. I like swords. I like magic. I wish it had the emotional thing. When Last Jedi, I'm like watching, being like, this is fucked. This is a fucked movie. And I'm gonna think about these themes forever. We're still thinking about, I am. I don't know. That expectation is too high.
Thanks for watching Spoiler Talk, where we talk spoilers. I've been Kieran.
Well, I guess I've been Jax. And this is fucking Grogu or whatever.
Yep. Hey. Yes. Good. You will like The Mandalorian next week.
I will like The Mandalorian next week. You're a cunt, Jax. I'm a cunt, Jax. Sorry, I took your bit.
I don't think you're a cunt. Follow Spoiler Talk on Instagram at Spoiler Talk. Follow BlackRock Broadcasting at BR Broadcast on Twitter and BlackRock Broadcasting on Facebook and Instagram. And subscribe on YouTube. We need 100 subscribers so that we can change our channel name to Spoiler Talk.
Yeah.
At the moment, it's YouTube / 4, 8, 15, 16, 23, 4, random numbers. And yeah.
Bloody, if you've made it this far, I'm sure you've hated every second of me saying everything about this episode. So comment. Let me know what I got wrong. I would love to hear people's opinions. Am I the only one that thinks the makeup just wasn't what they wanted? But I've always known that just something about the visual.
Yeah, you said actually a year ago that you didn't think they could do the makeup.
I just think it's something about it. It just doesn't... I don't know what it is either. And I'm sure in 3 weeks' time, I'll be like, fuck, I've never been more wrong in my life. But that would be amazing, because I've been very wrong a lot of times. I guess this is the way.
I guess so.
Spoiler Talk is produced by KCBN Studios and Space Kraken Media.